But first, let's talk about RPR. I did just show this a couple minutes ago. Those of you joining us now, this is Intro to RPR. This is an account that is not managed by MetroTex. You will need to create your own account if you have not already done so. If you go to your Netris login, that dashboard, it will have a link to RPR. You can create an account on that login screen. Click on Create a New Account. It's going to ask you for the last name and the NAR number or NRDS ID that is attached to your NAR account. You can also use email if you'd like, but NAR number is going to be easiest. And then you can create your account using those credentials. Keep that login information in a safe place. Again, since we don't manage that account, we cannot troubleshoot any login issues. So keep that in a secure location. Now on the Netris dashboard, let's take a look at the two ways you can access RPR. On the Netris dashboard, scroll down to the additional Netris products and partners. And it does say here, account activation may be required. If you have never logged into RPR, you will need to create an account. RPR is the second tile here with that multicolored icon and the letters RPR. Click on that and it should give you that single sign-on access if you have already created an account and been using RPR. It will auto log you out after 14 days of no activity. So if you don't use RPR for 2 weeks, you will need to log in again, but it should remember your login information when you click on that dashboard tile. That's option number one. I'm going to close out of this and show you option number two, because you know we have our external links in the Netris Matrix application. So let's go to Netris Matrix, very first one at the top of the page. And we're going to look for the external links widget. All right, so external links for me, it's on my screen right here. If you don't see it, look for external links. It has that little chain link icon. It might be under your additional widget. Let me move that up here to the top right. The additional widget, if your widgets are not on your screen, they will be housed in this widget. So my external links is down here at the bottom. Just going to pull it out and release it there so it can be placed in that location. Under the external links, you have Realtors, Property Resource, RPR in parentheses. This is another way to get in with that single sign-on access. So just a single click and it should auto log you in. All right, let's keep on looking here. Now that we are in RPR, let's look at just the links across the top here. We're going to work our way from left to right. Very first one here, this home button here. If you need to come back to this landing page that we're on right now, click on home and it will bring you back to this page. Your research section, this is where you can start any types of searches. This is going to be kind of a drop-down menu option here. When you click on research, you're going to have all these options where you can start searches. We also have a marketing section with different tools for marketing. You have your report section, and we will be looking at these in different ways throughout our class. I'm just pointing out the different sections. Reports, if you need to generate any reports for residential or commercial, or if you need to look at any existing reports that you've already generated, if you need to download them or rerun them, you have all your reports in that section. They also have their own help section. So if you need assistance, they have their support line here. They have a live chat. They even have their own training that they offer. And you can also click on the Learn tab for any step-by-step guided assistance or any recorded webinars that they have. The My Work tab, this is for anything that you have been doing, your listings, your saved properties, any searches that you save. All of the work that you've done will be stored in this section as well. And that's going to bring us to the very last icon here. If you've used RPR already, you might see your headshot in here. If you haven't set it up, we're going to add that next. You should at least see your first initial in that box in gray, or I guess in that circle in gray. Go ahead and click on that. And then we're going to click on Profile. We will look at both the profile and settings, but we'll start with Profile first. Okay, so in RPR, you can add both your photo and a logo. If you have it on your device already, go ahead and add it now. Let's do it right now. I'm going to click on Upload Photo for my headshot, and I am going to go look for my picture in here. All right. Once you find your photo, you can crop it. It does need to fit within that circle. So whatever you have to do, you can make it smaller, you can make it bigger. I think that's it's a little too small there. All right, we'll leave it as it is. Once you have cropped it to your liking, click OK, and it will add it to your profile. If you add something by mistake, just click on that little red X to remove it. Let me do the same with the logo. Again, if you have it on your device, go ahead and add it now. If not, you will have that recording if you want to come back and follow along later. I'm going to try this logo. Hopefully that works for me. I don't know about that one. Let me cancel. Let me try the other one. That's much better. All right, so I'm going to go with this logo. Click OK to add it on there. So I've got both my photo and my logo added on there. Once I save my changes up at the top, I'm going to go ahead and save it now. It will update that photo as well. Okay, great. Anytime you make a change to your profile, you should always see this confirmation page here. Let's close out of this because there's a lot more to explore on that section. So I'm going to close that and let's scroll down just a little bit here. We're going to go down to contact information. Now, like I said, this account is not managed by MetroTex. We do not manage your login information. Now, information that we have on file does get reported to NAR, but if anything in here needs to be changed, if NAR doesn't have the correct information, double check, make sure we have the right details with MetroTex, make sure that everyone has the correct information, especially for your office. That's most important. We want to make sure we have the right office information. You can update the spelling or the capitalization if you need to. You have your office address information. You have contact information. You can add multiple numbers. There's even a fax. If you have a fax number you need to add in here. And then you've got your emails and websites. All of them have an option for you to add more. So if you need your work number and your personal number, you can add those in here. Same with your email. So this is information that you can update in here. Normally in our classes, we will tell you, don't update it in here, update it with MetroTex. But since we don't manage this account, this is completely your account to manage. The next section, MLS or CIE info. Now, if you have not connected your Netris MLS, you can go ahead and do that now. You will need to start off by selecting the state, because remember, this is a nationwide database. So select the state that you're licensed in. For Netris, you'll select Texas, although some of our Netris users are from Louisiana, so make sure you are selecting the right one. Under the MLS or CIE drop-down menu right next to the state, this is where you're going to locate your MLS. All right, so we're going to be looking for Netris. Don't look for MetroTex. We are looking for Netris. Here it is. It is NTREIS. It has the abbreviation there. That stands for North Texas Real Estate Information Systems. That is our MLS. And then finally, step number 3, MLS CIE agent ID. So this is where you're going to enter your MLS login ID. So that license number starting with 0. I'm going to add mine in here. I'm a part of the staff here, so mine does not start with 0, but do not be alarmed. All right, now mine's already connected, but you should see this and then click add once you answer each of those 3 fields. Once you click add, you're going to see down at the bottom, Netris, your agent ID, and you should have that green check mark to show that it is connected. In case you're wondering, CIE, that is for commercial. That is commercial information exchange. So MLS is for our multiple listing service, Netris MLS. This CIE is if you are a commercial user, because you can do both residential and commercial in RPR. Next section, let's look at the license number. If you want your license number to be included on any reports that you generate just as part of your contact information, you can add that in as well. You'll select your state, the license type, real estate, appraisal, NMLS, or other, and then enter your license number, and it'll just display that license number on the reports that you generate. We will be generating at least one CMA. We'll see if there's time for us to look at some of the other reports as well, but I will show you where that will display. At the very bottom, you have your news subscription and your privacy policy. Make sure that that you do agree to the terms of use. I would highly recommend signing up to receive updates with RPR. They have a lot of updates that they offer on a regular basis. They're constantly making improvements and changes to this system, and they offer webinars and guided assistance through those emails as well. So I would highly recommend stay in touch with RPR updates because they have pretty advanced features on here, and more improvements are on their way. So definitely I would recommend to keep in touch with RPR. I'm scrolling back up to the top of the page. We're going to look at the right side of the page now. Account info. This is what you use to set up your account. Your last name, your NRDS or NAR number, and your email address. If you need to change your login information, this is where you'll be able to do that. You can change your password here. Just make sure you store that information in a secure location in case you get logged out or locked out of your account. Next, you have your time zone. Just make sure you have the right time zone selected. If you've connected any applications, any third-party apps to RPR, like I've connected my ZipForm account here, you can manage those. If you need to unlink it, you can do that here as well. And then you have your RPR mobile access. There is a mobile app for RPR. And if you've connected any devices to the RPR mobile app, it will allow you to manage and keep track of those devices on here. As you can see, I have one device on here. It's actually a device that I no longer have. Let me just remove that from my page. There we go. So if you download the app, you will be able to keep track of those devices. You can do up to 4 devices with the RPR mobile app. If you made any changes while we were exploring the rest of this page, go ahead and save those changes. And I am going to go to the Settings tab. Settings tab is going to be right up here on the top left next to Profile. So on this page, we've got our settings. The listing settings are going to be for our My Markets section. So if you're familiar with the Market Watch in Matrix, this is kind of a similar idea, but it's going to allow you to determine what qualifies as a new listing and what qualifies as a recently closed listing. This is also going to affect how that appears on the map. If you do any searches for listings and you look at that map, it's going to have the icons attached to each of the properties that fit your results, and you get to be the one to decide what qualifies as a new listing. Matrix is 5 days. There is no way we can change that. A new listing is only going to have that flag saying it's a new listing for 5 days. After 5 days, then it's just going to remove the flag there. So you can see here under residential, it's going to have that little indicator in orange that says new, and the default setting is 30 days. If you want to make it a little lower, you can slide that scale down to 14, to 7, to 3, or even to 1 day. So you get to customize this. Let me do 14 days. We'll do 14 days. And then same for recently closed. Recently closed is going to have that blue colored square. And you can change this. The maximum is 180 days, but you can go to 120, to 90, to 60, 30, 14, and 7. All right, so recently closed, I'm going to go back to that 90 days. We're going to leave it at that. And then I'll do the same thing for commercial just to keep it even. We'll say 14 days and 90 days. And I'm just clicking and dragging to change those scales here. At the bottom of this page, I'm going to click Save to save my changes. Okay, and I'm going to hit close there because we are going to look at the other section here. Now for My Markets on the top right, this is your Market Watch in RPR. I'm going to go ahead and I've got Irving, Texas on here already. Let me add another city. If you have any neighborhoods, any cities, any locations in particular that you want to keep an eye on and see what's going on in that area, what new listings do they have, who's making changes to those properties, any price changes, things like that, anything going on with changes in those areas, you can keep an eye on those through the My Markets section. That's what's on your main homepage. So I'm going to add Dallas. And then I just gave that a second here so it could find results here. Dallas, Texas is what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to do a single click to select it. And you can add more cities on here. They do not have to all be in Texas. Again, this is nationwide. If there are other areas in the country that you'd like to keep an eye on, you can add those to your markets if you want to keep an eye on their listing information. Let's save those changes and go back to the home page so we can take a quick look at where the My Markets is going to display. We won't spend too much time on that because there's a lot more that we need to cover, but let me show you where that is. Go back to the home page. Go back to the home page. On that home page, we're going to scroll down below these guided tours here. This map, these are your My Markets information. On the left, you can see we're on the Irving, Texas residential side, and you can see recent changes, anything that was recently listed as for sale, for lease, any recent price changes, anything that changed to pending, anything recently closed in the sale category, and anything recently closed in the lease category. You also have distressed properties as well. This is all just for Irving, Texas. I can also go to Dallas, my other city that I added on here. And I just need to click on Dallas and it's going to give me the updated information. Give it a moment because it's a lot of data. It'll also need to update the map. And it'll show you the same data just for the different area. All right, yeah, look at how those numbers jumped up. Dallas definitely has a lot more activity going on compared to Irving, but this is where you'll be able to keep track of those areas. You can also add more areas or you can edit the existing settings right on this page. Okay, so we're going to go back up to the top of the page. Let's scroll up here. And we're actually going to start off by looking up an actual property by address. So we're not going to do any general searches with criteria just yet. We'll do that in our second hour. But if you want to start a search, whether you are looking up an address like we were about to do, or if you're just looking for listings with specific criteria, this section up here at the top under all of your main navigation systems, this is where you'll start that search. This bar here. On the far left-hand side, you see that blue switch? It's got that white circle there, that button next to residential. That's telling me that everything on RPR right now is on the residential category. If I click on that switch, it's going to move that one down to the commercial side. This means everything that I look at in RPR is only for commercial. All right, it can be sale, it can be lease, that doesn't matter, but the category is commercial. For today's class, we will be focusing on residential. If you're interested in commercial, check out professional development. Look at our calendar. They sometimes have other instructors come in to teach on the commercial systems in RPR. All right, and also, again, RPR has their own webinars too. So you can check those out if you're interested in commercial. Our main inventory in MLS is residential, so we will focus on residential here. And for those of you following along, make sure you are using the same address that I'm giving so that you get the same results. But we're going to click into this location field here, and we're going to type an address. The address is 3838 Princess Lane. I'm just going to type 3838. Let me actually delete a little bit of this. Back to Prince. Just to show you here, we have Princess Lane in Dallas. That is the address we're looking for. But I've also got an address, 3838 Princeton in Georgia, 3838 Prince in North Carolina, and then another Princeton Street in California. So this is nationwide listings we're looking at. But click on that Dallas one. Just a single click, and it's automatically going to take us into that property report. So from here, we're going to explore all the different sections that are in here. Hopefully we'll be able to get through all of the sections before our 5-minute break, but if not, we will finish it up when we come back from that break. All right, so taking a look at this first section here, this blue bar across the top, this is the navigation of the listing. Starting with property information, we've got our photo options. There's actually 4 options here for photos. You can see the actual photos from the listing. That's the default view here. And you've got your arrows on the left and right-hand side if you need to scroll through those pictures and look at the details of the property itself. That's the first one, just the photos from the listing. Then you have your street view. If you just want to take a look at the street view, look at the neighborhood. Looks like this one is a new construction. So we can see that was a little older, that street view. You can see the neighborhood, get a feel for what else is going on in that area. All right, that's your street view. Then you've got your satellite view, so kind of more of a bird's eye view on Google Maps there. And then this one's really nice. I really enjoy having access to this here, the historical. Historical is going to show you the photos from any previous listing that was in the MLS. So you can see we have the current listing we're looking at from 2024. But if I go to the previous listing, this was December 2024. This one is from March. Look at that difference. This was a completely different property before. And we saw in that street view that they did do some construction, and now we can see the before and the after because of that historical data. As long as the photos are still visible in Netris, in our MLS, we have access to the historical photos from the previous listing. And this was just from last year. So look at that change that took place from just one year to the next. That's your historical. All right. Now, if there were more listings for that property, it'll show us all of the other listings as long as they were in our MLS. We have access to that since we connected our MLS at the beginning. So that's our photo section. On the right, we have just some basic listing information. What's the current list price? That MLS number is here with that listing ID. And then just the general breakdowns, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what's the square footage? And you can see that list date up here. It's been active since 12/11/2024. This next section here, this is an exclusive RPR tool called your RVM. I'm sure all of you are familiar with an AVM. We know that's our automated valuation model. It is based solely on public record data, and it's nice to have, right? It's pretty useful. But your RVM is going to take it a step further. RVM, first of all, that stands for Realtor Valuation Model. This is going to be the most accurate estimation tool because it uses data on all properties, both on-market MLS data, off-market MLS data, and public record data. And it's going to run reports monthly to try to come up with that RVM with the most accurate data that it's able to find. So our RVM we can see here, not too far off from that list price. The RVM was last updated on April 23rd, 2025. Depending on the accuracy or the confidence of this being an accurate estimate will impact the range that's given here. So it gives us both the price and the range of prices. And the range can be more narrow or broader depending on their confidence score. So they are pretty confident on this one. It's 5 out of 5 stars is that confidence score. So they are pretty confident on how accurate that estimate is based on the current market trends and everything like that. So here is our RVM. Now, if you ever need a refresher, what is an RVM? How do they calculate the range? What's the confidence score? Look at these little icons here. That little circle with the eye will give you more information on what the differences are, how these are calculated, what these mean. Just hover over the eye. Hover to discover more. New catchphrase right there. All right. The other thing you can see here, RVM month change. This is just going to show you from the previous month, how much did it change? So from the previous month of March to April 13th, that is the change in the price. And then the percentage from the previous year, look at that, 172. But keep in mind, remember, they did a complete construction or reconstruction on that property. So based on that first photo that first listing versus the other listing, this does make a little more sense. Now, let's click on this button here that says View Details. What I like about RPR is that they're very transparent about where they're getting this information. So this RVM was using the listings below. You can see them on the map. I'm going to keep scrolling down here. It was using the properties below to come up with that RVM. It tells you the exact properties. Looks like these ones were on that recently closed category, so closed within the last 90 days. And then you can see the information on those properties on here. These are the properties that were used to come up with that RVM. So it will show you those details. Let me close out of this now. We do have some basic facts about the property in here as well. All right. And that's just the top section. There's already so much information. We haven't even scrolled down to see the rest of it yet. So let's scroll down now. We're going to skip over these pricing tools because we're going to look at each of these one step at a time as we go through the different sections. Now from here, you're going to see your listing data. This is the property description coming from the listing. If you ever want to double check, where's this information coming from? Each of these little cards or sections on the bottom right-hand side, it will always tell you the source. So right here, this one, the source is the listing in MLS. You'll notice here, a lot of sections will have a section for notes. This is for you to add your own personal research notes for your reference. So let's say this is not an active listing, it's an off-market property that we're potentially going to be listing in the future. If I need to add any notes about this property, I can add my notes in here. I'm just going to say type notes here. Smiley face. There we go. We can add any notes that we need as we're getting familiar with the property. You can do it on the desktop application, or you can do this on the mobile app. It's going to update both systems with any notes that you add. And the nice thing here, these notes have no impact on the listing or on the property. This is just for your reference. No one else can see the notes you add to these properties. It's just for you. If you want to include your notes on your reports, it's automatically going to have that box checked. If you prefer not to keep this on your reports, just uncheck that box. And notice how anytime I make a change here, it's going to save it automatically. I don't have a save button or anything like that that I need to press. So that's your notes section. Next to the description, you've got your map. If you want to look at the interactive map, we will look at the map at the end of our class. That'll be how we wrap up the day. But let's keep on scrolling down here. Let's look at the property facts. The property facts are both going to have the facts from public record, and the listing facts from the actual MLS listing. So you can look at that side-by-side comparison. Public record information looks like they added 2 bedrooms. They added more bathrooms. Does not look like the public record detail has it updated just yet. Now, let's say if the listing was the previous listing and it's off the market, it still has that 4 in there. You can make your changes in here based on what has updated on that property. So let's say that 6th bedroom, we could just add a 6 in there. The 7 baths, you can add a 7 in there. All right, so just keeping track of changes to that property. Even how that living area square footage changed, you can update that in here as well. This is, again, just for your reference. Any changes on that property between the public record and listing, anything that is updated that you want to keep track of, you have all these fields, not just for the bedrooms and bathrooms, but you've got garage information, you have your year built information, heating and cooling upgrades, anything like that is going to be there for you to keep track of those changes. Any changes that you add on this column here, you can save your changes at the bottom. You will need to click that save button if you add any changes on here. I'm not going to make any changes in here, but we will look at that when we do our refine value. Once again, you have a notes section here. So if you're adding any details about those changes, it's only asking for numbers in those fields. For the most part, it's only asking for numbers depending on what category it is. But if you need to add more specifics, let's say they went from 4 bedrooms to 6 bedrooms, you can use that notes section to add more detail. Was it a second floor that was added to the property? What more detail can I include to give myself that reference and that reminder of the changes that were made to this property? So another notes section. Next, we have our interior features. Now, you'll see everything else we look at is going to separate it by listing data and public record data. So it is going to separate both categories. Now, the level of detail we have in the listing information is going to depend on how detailed that listing agent was with their property. So the minimum requirement, if the rooms are greater than 0, is you have to have at least 1 primary bedroom and 1 living room with the dimensions. That's the requirement for MLS and Matrix. But if you have more rooms and you want to add those details, I highly encourage you to add that information as well. Next, we have our exterior features, again, separated by the listing and public record information. You've also got your legal description in here. That's coming from public record. And then you have your school information. Now it is going to show you two categories for school information. The first one has the information from the listing. So coming from the listing, Dallas ISD, that's your elementary, middle, and high schools from the listing itself. But there's another resource here. It's called Niche. And Niche is going to actually provide rating information. It's going to grade the school. So you can see these are the three schools here with the rating information. You can actually use this information to create a school report. I'll show you where that is a bit later. But just keep in mind, we're not making recommendations on schools. This is just providing data. We can give the data to our client. They can make their own decisions, but we are not making recommendations on where they send their children to school. All right. But it's nice to have access to that information and see what's going on in that area. Next, we've got owner facts information. This is coming both from public record and the listing. And you'll see in the owner facts section, you can see, is it owner occupied, yes or no? How long have they owned the property? About 15 to 20 years. So both of these categories here, we can use that when we start searching for prospects. We can search by whether a property is owner occupied or even by how long they've owned the property, depending on what kind of clients we're looking for. We will look at that later. We also have listing history. So this is our current listing. You can see the current listing and the previous listings. Now, there's only one other previous listing, but if there were more listings, you would see all of those on here. But you do have access to that history in here. This link should take you to that listing directly. I'm not going to click on it. I don't want to navigate away from this page, but it is a clickable link that you can use to access more information here. You can also view more details down here at the bottom, just to get more information about that previous listing. And then there is a compare records option here if you want to analyze the records side by side. Next, you have your public record history. This is another one that has three categories. You can look at the deed, mortgage, and tax information from public record. All right, and it's going to show you the most recent first, but if you want to go further back, you do have those little arrows to move further back in time. Looks like it goes as far back as 2009. Next section is your sales and financing activity. It is going to show you this chart here that will default to the activity for all time on the history of this listing. But if you want to just look at the last 3 years of activity or the last 2 years or just the last year, you can see the updated information. I'm going to go back to this 2-year one. It had a little more detail on it. So these are the different points of data that you have on this chart. If you hover over any of these little icons, you can see, okay, so this is listing activity. This is when they had a new listing for sale at $875. And then over here, they have a new listing for sale at about 2.6, just under. So you've got that information on here. At the bottom is your legend. And if you want to remove any data from this chart, you can just click on the icon in the legend at the bottom here, and it'll remove it from your chart. So if you just want to see listing activity only, you can keep that as the only active field on there. And then if you want to bring back mortgage or bring back sales activity, you can add those in as well. You'll also have a chart down here below that'll adjust based on what you're looking at. Let's keep going here. We now have our estimated value, and this finally brings us to the bottom of the first page. I know there's a lot of information on here, and we have all these other tabs to look at, but estimated value is going to show you the comparison side by side of the assessed activity and of the estimated value. So that property assessment, that is something that's updated annually. And then that estimated value, this updates twice monthly. All right. Again, any chart is going to have the same options. You can go 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or all time for that property. And this is coming both from public record and the listing. Now, as we've been scrolling through this page, the navigation for this property up at the top has been following us the entire way. So I can go straight to the next section by clicking on it from the bottom of this page. Let's click on map/location. We'll just look at this very quickly. So this is your map. We will look at the map more in depth and look at all the tools on the map at the end, but just very quickly, I do want to show you at least where you can find the legend. It's on the bottom right-hand side of the map, just so you can see anything that is an on-market property is going to have the round icon. Any circles on there are on-market properties. You can see this one here with that circle there. Anything that is off market, either recently closed or has been closed and off the market for a while, those are going to be the squares. So almost all of the other ones surrounding our subject property, which is this black one with the house icon, almost all of them are off market properties. You can see that here. So just 1, 2 that are on market. And then of course down here you have your flags for new listings, coming soon, and open houses. And again, we'll look at the rest of the tools later. From map and location, let's go to the market trends. Your market trends information, this is going to show you how the market is doing based on the zip code of that address. So 75229 is what the market trend information is that we're looking at. And there's a lot of different sections on here. So just looking at the very first section, this is just going to be the general overview for March 2025, so the previous month. How was the market in March 2025? Was it seller's market, balanced market, or buyer's market? You can see it's leaning more on the seller side. You have your key details here, plus not just the information for the month of March, but what was the month over month change? Meaning from February to March, how much did it change? Here's your months of inventory, your sold price to list price, your median days in RPR. So this is your days on market, median days, and then the median sold price in this area. All right. And then always look at that month over month so you can see since February, from February to March, this is how much it changed. This is coming from listing data. Next, you have your active listings. This is all different charts specifically for anything on the active category. I see a question in the chat. How are you getting to these new sections? This blue bar across the top, this is our main navigation. We went from property information to map/location. And now we're clicking on market trends. So we're just using this bar across the top to go to the different sections here. So we're on the active listings. Second section here. 1 second, I'm going to get some water. Okay. And you've got your different categories here. Each category on the active section is going to have its own chart. And just like the other charts we've seen so far, you can change the time frame, but it will default to all time. But we have our median list price. You can click on each tab to see the updated data. Number of properties, median days in RPR, the price per square foot, total sales volume, and the median living area square foot. Each one with its own chart. As I scroll down, same thing, but on the sales side or sold side, you've got your different categories up here across the top. Sold public record, well, Texas is a non-disclosed state, so that sales information is not going to be available in the public record section. So no information on here. If you ever come across something that has no information, you can actually collapse that section. And how do we collapse it? On the top right-hand side, those 3 dots, click on this to collapse or to expand. So since there's nothing in that public record section, we collapsed it. If you ever want to bring it back, just click expand. Next up, you have listing inventory for, again, that zip code, Dallas, Texas, 75229. And then you can kind of see just the layout, how many single family residents, how many townhome, condo, apartment, how many lot land. You can see those numbers here for that zip code. Same with their distressed properties, any properties in foreclosure. You can see that here as well. After that, you have your median estimated property value. And this chart is actually going to show you the property that we're looking at. So the subject property is that blue line. And obviously not a huge surprise that it jumped up after that construction that they did in 2024. But you can also see how it measures up in the city of Dallas, in Dallas County, and in the state of Texas. All right, so pretty huge change with that construction that went down there. Now that we're at the bottom here, you can see some sold comp statistics. It is going to show your subject property in that yellow bar, and then the comps in the area. For median sales price, you have your price per square foot, price range, age range, and price per bedroom. So you do have all of those categories on here at the bottom. Now there's something else that I want to show you. I'm going to scroll up to the top of the page here. Each of these categories, they have a ton of information here, but you can change the data or the property type that it's showing this data for. On the top right-hand side, almost all of these cards have a property type drop-down menu. And the default so far has been single family. But I can change this. I can switch this by clicking on single family. I can look at the data for condo, townhouse apartments, co-op, mobile manufactured homes, multifamily, multiplex, lot/land, farm/ranch, or I can combine the single family residence with condo, townhomes, and apartments. If I click on that last option, it's going to ask, do I want to apply that change to this cart or this chart only, which is only the active listings, or do I want to apply this to all of the charts on this page? I'm going to go ahead and apply it to all of them. So it doesn't matter which one you update. If you want all of them to update, it will update every single one. All the information we have in here will update accordingly. All right, let's move on from here. There is one more thing I want to show you, but I don't want to do that during these last 2 minutes before our first break. So when we come back from break, I will show you the other section on here, but we'll come back to it. Let's take a look at the, let's jump over to the end of the My Updates. Let's take a look at that, and then we'll save this property so we can go on break. So we're going to look at My Updates as the very last one on that main navigation for this property. My Updates is going to give you tools that you can use to keep track of any changes that you make on the property. So you've got your notes section here. Now remember, you have a ton of notes sections in the property display as well. But if you just want to add more general notes, this is another location where you can add your own notes. Let's say, again, the scenario where this is an off-market property that we're potentially going to list. I can come here, walk through that property with the seller, take photos, and I can upload those photos here. This is still only visible to you. So if you need to upload any photos while you're working on this listing and getting it ready to list, you can upload your photos in here if there's any features or things that you want to remember or keep in mind when you're putting that together. You also have a seller's net sheet on here if you need to use this to put any estimates on what they might make, or you have a new feature here, estimated equity calculator, if you want to use these tools here. These are just for your use. This, again, has no effect on the listing itself, only visible to you. All right, now before we go on break, let me just show you real quick. If you're doing research on a property and you have somewhere you need to go, we got an appointment we have to get to, but we want to come back to this later, you can click on the little heart icon that says save at the very top. So very top of the page above the blue navigation bar here, click on that save button. You can give it a custom name if you'd like. So for today, let me put today's date on here. I'm going to say 4.23.25 for today's date. And I'm just going to do 3838. Sorry, I didn't mean to do all caps. Princess, since that's the address. And I can save that. And thanks to RPR's integrations, it tells me right where I can find it over here under My Work. But let's go ahead and go back to the home page for now, and let's take a 5-minute break. All right, everybody. 5 minutes goes by really fast, I know, but let's keep going here. We're going to get back into our class. Now, we left off looking at a lot of the sections of a specific property that we looked up by address. If we need to get back to that property, we can go from the home page to My Work, and we can click on our saved properties here. That's one option. Or on the home page, You can scroll down past your My Market section, and all of your work is going to be here too. If you connected your MLS and you have listings, you should be able to see your listings displayed on here. You also have My Properties, which is going to show the very first option in here, the saved properties. So this is where we're going to find the property we were just looking at. If I click on View, it'll show me here 42325. 3838 Princess. That is the one that we saved. I can go back to that main display by clicking on this tiny little arrow at the top. I can also see recent properties. So if I forgot to save this property, I can look at anything I viewed recently. I can also look at any reports I've generated and also any notes if I added any notes to any properties. The next section here on the right is My Searches. So if you didn't save it, you can also go to your recent searches, and you can see both specific searches that you've looked up, like specific addresses, or if you've done a search on the map or with search criteria, anything like that, all of those recent searches will be here. You can also create your own saved searches. So if you want to save any search criteria, run that search again and see if you have any new results, you can do that. We will look at that a little bit later in this second half of our class. And then at the bottom, you have access to the RPR Facebook group. You have their phone number for support down here at the bottom, and they also have their own on-demand training that they offer to all users. Let me scroll back up to the top of the page. And actually, let's go back into that listing we were looking at. So I'm going to click on My Saved Properties and click on 3838 Princess. We're going to go back into that property here. Now, we were looking at the market trends and my updates. We are going to go back to market trends because I did show you there's one more feature, and I am a big fan of this one, and that is the create script function. So on the market trends, if part of what you'd like to do is to expand your social media presence and educate your following on the state of the market, of whatever market you're working in, any areas that you'd like to notify anyone about changes and trends, this is a really great feature that's only available in RPR, and that is the create script function. That is on the top right-hand side over here, create script. This is actually going to use ChatGPT. It's going to use AI to create a script interpreting the data that is on this page. So it's not just going to interpret the data, it's going to give you a script on how you should be presenting that information to your clients or to anyone following you on your social media accounts, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok. And it's going to help you to come up with content so that you can stay in touch on a regular basis. So if you want to create a script, you can access it through the market trends. This one is through the property we looked up, but that's not your only option. You can actually go up to, I believe it's the research tab, and you actually have a residential market trends section where you could look up a specific neighborhood or city or zip code and get the data just based off of the location. Remember, the market trends in here, it is based off the zip code as well. So how does it work exactly? You can click that create script button. You'll get this pop up here, and you're going to tell the AI system, again, it's powered by ChatGPT. So if you're not familiar with it or not comfortable with it, of course, this is just a little preview. You're not required to use this, but it is a really great tool. First thing you're going to do is you're going to choose your tone. Do you want to sound professional, engaging, conversational, or just friendly and casual? Let's say we want to go with an engaging tone. Next one is, who is your audience? It's going to default to buyers and sellers, but I can click on this drop-down menu and target this to only buyers, only sellers, to first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, investors, luxury sellers, downsizing, or even distressed sellers. So you get to decide who it is that you're speaking with. Let's say this is going to be for buyers. And then finally, you have to select one of these three options. What would you like to do? Create a video script, a social media campaign, or just analyze metrics? Let's go with create video script. And then once you click on that option, it's going to generate a script for you automatically based off of the current information that we're looking at. All right, and here's my script, and it even is going to give you ideas on how you can create that video. Up here at the top, opening shot of Christina standing in front of a beautiful Dallas skyline. And then here's my script. Hello and welcome. I'm Christina, realtor here in Dallas, Texas. Today I'm excited to share with you the latest market update for March 2025. And then you can cut to a graphic, which you can also download from RPR. And then here's your next section going over the details of that graphic. What is the information being displayed there? Then you have another chart and it tells you which ones to be using. Now, are you limited to only the script here? No, absolutely not. You can use this as a template, and then you can add your own flair, your own creativity to this to make it more aligned with your brand. But this is a really great tool if you're trying to come up with content to stay in touch with consumers, but you just don't have the capacity to come up with something different every single time. It's a really great resource to use. At the bottom here are your options for how you can save this information. If you just want to copy, you can export to Word or as a PDF, Google Docs, as a text file, or you can click on this button to get an email sent to you with this information in it. All right, let me do another one here. I'm going to click on social campaign just so you can see what that looks like. And here are the different posts that you can use on the social campaign. Maybe you do one post a day, so you start with this first one. And then you can go grab one of the other cards or charts that are on that page. It even has the emojis and it has the little hashtags there for you. So very minimal effort. All right. Now, I would always recommend make sure you read this information before you post it. Make sure you know what it's actually saying so that you can decide if that's something you want to share. All right. With these kinds of systems, we always want to exercise caution, check with your broker, make sure that this is something that you can use and get that stamp of approval. But if this is something you can use and it's something that's going to save you time, why not? All right. So that's your market trend script writer. That's one of the newer features in RPR that I am very excited to share with you. If you use the app, the mobile app for RPR, they have a different AI feature on there that is also really cool with the property information that you look at there. So I do recommend checking that out as well. So from the market trends, let's look at the neighborhood information. Then we're going to come back to get the refined value so we can generate a CMA. From here, neighborhood summary. Let me go back real quick in case you missed it. It happens fast. Up here at the top, when you click on neighborhood, this is going to take us to a different page. It's got its own set of sections. So this blue bar here is going to change. This is now for the neighborhood. All of this is neighborhood information. If you want to go back to that property, you can click on property, but we're going to start off with the summary. The summary does give us a little bit of repeating themes here. We have our market trends. We just looked at that. We can still create a script. We can still change the property type. One thing I did not show you was that share option. So if you want to add these graphics to your video or to your social media posts, click on that share option. You'll get a little preview of the image and you can share to Facebook, to X, to LinkedIn, or you can download the image to share it on any other platform. You can also customize the title of the chart along with the subtitle if you want to make a customization there. All right, so that is the summary starting off with market trends. Let's scroll down. We have our median estimated property value. Again, this can still be changed to a different property type. We have our AARP livability index. This is giving it a score of 52 out of 100. Anything over 50 is going to be above average, so it's going to be good. Over here on the right, you can see the breakdown of the different categories used for that total score and what each category was given for that for the score as well out of 100. Next, you have top 5 occupations that are represented in this area, again, based on the zip code. And this is coming from the US Census Bureau. So again, taking it a step further than what we normally see. It's not just listing data. It's not just public record information. We have AARP integrations. We have US Census integrations. Remember, for those school ratings, we have niche providing us with the school grade. And then down at the bottom of this section, you can also see nearby neighborhoods. So let's say maybe that property isn't working for your client, but they're interested in the general area where it's located. Here's the nearby properties and their information. You can even view listings in each area. I'm not going to click on that because it'll take us to another page. Let's go back up to the top section, that blue navigation bar. Click on housing. We're going to drill a little deeper into each category. Let me go back up to the top of the page here. We're on the housing tab now. Now, each of these other sections are going to start off with facts and stats. And the facts and stats is going to show you the data based off of the zip code, the city, the county, the state, and even the country. So you can see that side-by-side comparison for information like your median home estimated value, your median list price, all right, the median home age, or even the percentage of renters versus owners in each area. So you'll be able to see changes like that in here. Next, we have our different charts here. So new listing information, all of the different charts you can generate and share. Then you have your active listings. We did see the active listings on the market trends. The new listings, that one was not on the market trends. We have new pending listings. Now, new pending means that that listing became pending in March. All right, so anything that was pending in February and remained pending in March, not part of this category. New pending listings. Then you've got your actual pending listings. So they started the month of March already in that pending status. Then you have your sold listings, your month's supply of inventory. And again, public record sales information, not going to be available, so it's going to be blank. We can collapse that card. And then you have your sold home stats. That's all the housing information. Now, you might have noticed when I'm scrolling up and down on the bottom right-hand side, there is an arrow to jump to the top and bottom of the page. So if you just want to go back up to the top, click top, and it'll take you back up there. From housing, let's take a look at people. This is going to be facts and stats about the population. So what is the population? Density per square mile. What's the median age range? What's the male to female ratio? You also have education information. What are the highest levels of education attained? You can see the categories: less than 9th grade, some high school graduate, associate's degree, bachelor's, some college, and then a graduate or professional degree. Each of these categories has the same distinction or same categories for the zip code, the city, the county, the state, and the country. So you can see the comparison at a local level and nationwide. All of this, again, coming from US Census. We also have the population broken down by age group, starting with children. You have your toddlers, your elementary school, middle school, and high school age ranges. Population of adults will be by the actual age range, your 18 to 20-year-olds, 21 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 54, biggest category in there. And then we have 55 to 64, 65 to 74, and 75 or older. So all categories represented here. More information, households with children. How many households are married with children, married without children, or single with children? Then you've got your household income brackets and the occupational categories. You might recall on that summary page for the neighborhood, it gave us the top 5. This is all occupations that are represented in this area, all of them. And then the very last piece, presidential voting pattern. Everything's coming from US Census except for this one. This is the uselectionatlas.org. All right, so presidential voting pattern, all of that is in there. Let's go back up to the top. That's people. Let's look at economy. Economy doesn't have as much information on it. It's more focused on unemployment information, but we have the economic facts and stats here. Income per capita, median household income. We already saw a little bit about that on the people section. And then we have unemployment information here. The only other section on here is a chart showing the unemployment rate. And you can see here it has the different categories for the city of Dallas, Dallas County, the state of Texas, and the country. And obviously, we know what happened there right around March 2020. We know what went down. So yes, of course, that unemployment rate definitely spiked up there in 2020. That's coming from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. That's economy. Very last one is going to be quality of life. Now, on the quality of life, you have information like kind of like what's the climate like? How's the weather? What are people's commute times looking like? If I scroll down here, this is where the AARP livability index is coming from. You can actually go directly to AARP if you want to see more information on that as well. Your average commute time is on here. So most people, looks like majority, are going to be within that 15 to 30-minute range. All right, but you have the other categories represented here to see what percentage of the population has how long or short of a commute. Then we have a category here, how people get to work. So top category, if you drive, carpool, or take a motorcycle, that's that largest category there. If you're working from home, that's its own category. Public transportation, walking, and biking. Doesn't look like anybody is biking in that area, but it is there. Next up, you have average monthly temperatures. Now this one, take it with a grain of salt. It is an average, but if you are using this data to tell someone from another state, perhaps, what they can expect, take a look at the averages for January, the minimum and maximum temperatures, and then July, representing summer in Texas. 95 is a little low to me. It usually feels like a triple digit all year long. So just be transparent. Let them know it might say 95. It does not feel like 95. And I know we all know that. Very last category here, walkability score. Now, DFW, we're mostly driving everywhere we need to go. So not a huge surprise that we don't have enough data to display for walkability scores. But it will update depending on the location, depending on the neighborhood. It can fluctuate and go higher in each category. That's our quality of life information. Now, all of this information can be used to be generated in a neighborhood report. So if you have someone that's kind of trying to get a better idea of what the neighborhood is like before they start looking for properties, you can give them that neighborhood report. All right, now I just went back to the property information. So again, from neighborhood, I just clicked on property up here at the top. And I will mention for those of you who have not checked out Realist Tax does have some similar features to this. It's not quite as modern, but they do have some enhancements and some data that you don't typically see in RPR. So I do recommend check out both systems. Both of them do give you reporting options for the neighborhood, for market trends. It just depends on what you'd like to use the information for. For example, market trends in RPR gives you the information for the previous month, but you cannot look at specific months. If you want to see 3 months ago or 6 months ago, you can't do that in RPR, but Realist Tax will let you go as far back as 1 year and look at every single month of market trends that's been. Check out both. If you have access to multiple resources, why not use all of them? All right, so we're on property information. Now we're going to look at the refined value. Starting with refined value, then that's going to bring us to our CMA. So we're looking at refined value on here. Okay, so it looks like they are making some updates on here, so has not been updated yet. So I'm not going to use this category because it's still being worked on. But the intention here is if there's any changes, we did take a small look at this at the beginning of our class, if you recall. But you can keep track of changes to the property on here. Now, the intention with this section, and again, I closed out that notification, but they're still working on it, is if there's a change, let's say they added another bedroom, so from 6 bedrooms, it's now 7 bedrooms. When I save this information or click Update Facts, it should calculate the change in value for the property. Now, adding another bedroom, deducting about $1.2 million from the value, I'm not sure how accurate that is. So this is something that has been reported to RPR. That's why they're working on this, and they're taking a lot of thorough research and polls and outreach, asking for users to give their input on the refined value from these basic facts up here. But once this is working, I highly recommend checking this out and coming back to it later. So I just changed this back to 0. You can also click reset if you made any changes. We will look at the other categories though. So let's start off with the second section, refined value by home improvements. Now, there have been a lot of major improvements on this property, so this one would be very time consuming if it hadn't already been listed. So again, we're going to pretend this is something that we have not, that's not already listed. This is something we're potentially going to list in the future. I can use this to add detail about all of the improvements that were done on this property. So let's say they did a major kitchen remodel. We can select different categories here. It'll give you a mid-range option and an upscale option. So let me click on mid-range first. Major kitchen remodel, mid-range. If you're not sure which one applies, look at the descriptions. Once you make your selection, here's the description. This is telling us these types of repairs, not the exact work that was done, but the general idea, this is what would qualify as a mid-range remodel. And then if I were to go to the upscale option, it's going to give me the description, a general idea of what would consist of an upscale remodel. So let's say we're going to stick with the upscale option for this property. We can add the date it was completed. Let's say this was, well, it was 2024. So we'll look at the previous year. We can say it was completed in June of 2024. And the cost. How much did this cost that seller or the owner of that property? I'm just going to say that that kitchen remodel was about $30,000. All right, we're just making up numbers here. This is not a recommendation on pricing. You would get that information from the seller of how much it costs. With this information, we're going to click Add Improvement, and it's going to give us the value. So this increased the value of the property by about $8,000. And if there's any other home improvements, I can add those as well. I'm not limited to only one. So you can be as detailed as you'd like. This is a tool. This is not requiring you to adjust the price of the list price of the property. This is for your reference, but you're not required to use it. But based off of that refined value for home improvements, on the right, we have our actual refined value. We can see the original estimate. This is the RVM. Remember the RVM, Realtor's Valuation Model. Then we have our refined changes. And now we have our new refined estimate. Let's keep going. That was the refined value by home improvements category. Next, it's the opposite. Needed improvements. So say they did a ton of improvements, but it needs a new fence or something like that, right? We can list any needed improvements. So we're just going to use fence. All right, let's say the cost of that fence is going to be about $3,000. I don't know. Again, fake numbers here. I am not an appraiser. I'm not a builder. I have no idea what to price these at, but we're just using this for reference. So we're going to say it's going to cost them $3,000 because of whatever the repair is that needs to be done to that fence. This is just going to take the literal cost that you put in here. It's not going to use any other data to estimate the price. Click on Add Improvement. This one's going to deduct because it still needs to be done. So someone's going to need to take that and do those repairs. It is going to adjust that refined value with the new information that we added. Next section, very last one on here, is to refine the value by the market and home conditions. And these are just sliding scales. So you're going to decide based on the market and home conditions, is it average, slow, or is it hot? Let's say it's a little slow. Just moved it over by 1. But when I moved it over by 1, if I scroll down here, it decreased the price by about $25,000 and it updated my refined changes. But let's say the exterior condition is far superior. Now that increased the value by $81,000 and updated my refined changes. So you can keep on going through these different sections. The interior, superior, oh, that rhymed. The lot size, I'll say a little more to the right. The view is about the same. Privacy, maybe a little bit less. All right, so you'll be the one to make the determination on how to adjust these, and then you'll see the total at the bottom once you finish adjusting each of those sliding scales. And our refined value over here has now updated. All right, so then from here, let's say, all right, based off this information, maybe I want to generate a CMA and make this type of pricing recommendation. Now I can go to my CMA tab and I can start putting together the CMA that I need. Now, when you change to CMA, notice how over here, it's showing off-market public record. Obviously, we're not going to generate a CMA for something that's already listed. right? So it already switched us to the off-market information for this property. So that's nice. Now, the next thing here, you have to select the type of analysis you're doing. Comparative analysis is typically what an agent will use. That sales comparison analysis, this is more for an appraiser, all right? But there is a little quick video here if you want to know what the difference is. But we're going to walk through this on the comparative analysis. There are 5 steps for generating the CMA. First one is to confirm the home facts. So if we need to do that refined value again, click on confirm facts. Any changes that we did not note, we can add in here. All right. I'm not going to make any changes. We're just going to confirm the facts and close. But again, remember, this one's still a work in progress. You can add the changes in here, and you don't have to use the pricing recommendation given by RPR. It's just a tool. It is not a requirement to use the pricing recommendation they give. You can use your own judgment on that. So we've confirmed our home facts. Now we're going to search for comps. This page does get a little bit confusing. It's not the most visually appealing for looking up comparables. But you can see up here at the top, this is our criteria. You've got your actual search criteria and you have the map. You can use either. It's going to automatically add criteria in here for us based off of the listing data. We can go ahead and hit search now and see if it gives us any decent comparables. I'm not going to make any changes. I'm not going to make any changes to the criteria. I'm just going to hit search. All right, we've got about 30 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we aren't spending too much time on the little details here. All right, so once you search, it is going to remove the criteria and just show you a summary of the criteria, the listings and properties on the map. And then as I scroll down, this is where I'll see my results. Now, there's something very important I want to highlight here, because when you add your comparables, RPR is still going to try to come up with an estimated price recommendation for you. If you want to come up with something that's different from the RVM that's attached to that property, make sure that you don't use the same properties that were in the RVM. It'll tell you on the right-hand side of each property with that blue star, and it'll say in text below, used in RVM. So if you are selecting only the blue star categories, then it's going to give you the same RVM result. All right, so if we want to get something a little different, we'll use different properties. Now, as a disclaimer, again, we are not licensed agents in the MLS department. I am not a licensed agent. I'm just going to select the first 3 properties, but you will do much more thorough research, right? So I'm just going to select these first 3. All I'm doing is checking these boxes where it says add to comps list. I just selected those 3. Over here on the right, here's the range based off the comps. All right, maybe I'll add this other one too. So once you find the properties that you'd like, and look, it's a lot more than that. They gave us tons of results on here. All right, so once you have the comparables that you'd like to use, you'll see them displayed over here on the right, along with that range based off of the current selections. You can select update valuation and close if these are the ones you'd like to use. If you added something by mistake, let's say maybe there's a property on here that shouldn't be on here, I want to remove it from my comps, just click on that link and remove it. All right, so you can adjust those comps there. I'm going to click on update valuation and close. We'll go to the next step. Okay, now those comps, it does put in here the average and the range. The next one is make adjustments. So if you need to make any adjustments to those comparables, you'll click on adjust comps. The adjustments in RPR are not going to be like the ones you do in other CMAs that you generate where you're entering the actual pricing information. This is a sliding scale. So what you can see over here, we've got our subject property in this kind of like light pastel yellow column. And then our comparables are over here on the right. If we want to change the order, you've got this drop-down menu to change the order that they're displayed in. You can also change the data that you're using for that CMA. If you want to switch from the listing record to public record information, or if there is another listing here that you want to use, maybe it's showing the 2018 and you want to use the 2025 listing. It's up to you how you display this information, but you do have that history for each of these properties in here. As you scroll down, you can see the photos here. If you want to make them slightly bigger, you can, just to see the photos a bit better. And then down here at the bottom, not at the bottom, but below those photos, this is where you're going to do your adjustments. Rate comps compared to the subject property. So how does this property compare to the subject? Is it worse? Is it the same? Is it better? I don't really like saying worse. It's just slightly less good. Oh, next, we'll go to the other property. How does this compare to the subject? Let's say just slightly to the left. Maybe we'll move this one over a bit more. And then that final one, yeah, same thing. They're all, the improvements that were done. Of course, that's just the Google Street View, but we saw the updates. That one definitely has it's a little better than the ones we're looking at here. But look at this. Once we make those adjustments, it's going to add the price in there for us. This will adjust your subject by this much. It'll adjust your subject by this much because of how we did the comparison with the other properties. That is all you have to do. Probably the simplest adjustment option that you have with your CMAs. The other ones, you have to actually enter an actual price to make adjustments. Let's scroll down to the bottom of this page. If you want to add any notes, maybe if you want to justify the need for these adjustments, you can add those notes in here. If you want to include this in your reports, you can, or you can uncheck if you're not going to want to include the notes on there. Down at the bottom, you can see the total adjustment, and then you can select Update, Valuation, and Close. All right, so that's our adjustments here. Next, review comp analysis. So based off of the information we've entered so far, here is the estimated value and range that they have put together with what we've selected so far. Are you required to stick to these numbers? No. Remember, we used that refined value and it gave me a much higher price than this. So I can edit this, and if my expertise is telling me to put a different price in there, I can put a different price in there. Another thing you can do in here is you can leave the recommended price blank, and you can just do a price range only. So maybe if we want to do, let's say, 2 million to 2.5. I can just keep that as my range and save it there. It's not going to require that you do an actual recommended price. Last step, create report. Now this is going to take us to another page, so say goodbye to this property. We're going to go onto the reports page. Create report. Now this is not going to generate the report yet, but we're getting there. So now we have to decide what type of report we're doing. Well, since we started it as the CMA, it's automatically selecting a seller's report. So no need to make any changes here. Notice how this one is approximately 81 pages. It could be more or it could be less depending on how we customize this. If you ever want to view a sample of each of these pages, you can view the sample here. I click on this, it's just going to give me this pop-up. It's not going to use the property that I'm using. It's just going to give me their own automated example that they created for the sample. All right, but you can view each of the pages on there. If you want to customize which pages are included, click on Customize. On the seller's report, you can include all sections. You have different elements on here. Some of these are different sections of the same page if you'd like to include or exclude information. If you need a quick preview, hover over that little eye, remember? Hover over the eye to see more information. So just at this top section here, this is going to show us where on this one page each section is going to be. So that list price is on the top left, estimated value change is on the bottom left, comp analysis result is on the right, and your range tells you how that's calculated here. Then we've got all the different sections. Remember, we looked at all the different sections throughout this class. All of these sections can be added to this report. The market activity, the neighborhood information, all of it can be added on here. You also have a checkbox here to include your notes. So if you left those checkboxes selected for your notes, you can include them on here. If you forgot to uncheck them, uncheck it here. All right, same seller's net sheet entries. I didn't add anything to that page, so I'm just going to uncheck. And then you have some other options if you want to suppress the estimated value for the subject property, so that RVM, if you don't want to have it on there, you can update these details as well. Same with sales data sources, public record or listing information. Well, public record's not going to have sales data. So all of these are customizations that you can make. All right. And then let's see, from here, if I want to customize my cover page, remember we added our license number to our profile. This is going to be on the cover page. So I just scrolled back up to the top here. On the right-hand side, customize your report. It's so you can update your contact information on the cover page. It's going to have all of these selected here. You can pick and choose. Do I want my name, my license number, my broker website? I can remove elements from this contact details section if I only want it to be my name, my license number, and my email. Maybe I don't want my phone number on there. Or maybe that's an old photo. I just want to remove the photo. Whatever it is, you can make those customizations here for how you'd like your contact information to display. One other customization here, you can add page numbers. I know, very exciting. And then if you want to upload any custom pages, let's say maybe one of these 81 pages is missing something that you would like to include, you can upload your own custom pages here and add those to your reports. Okay, now as I've been scrolling up and scrolling down, on the bottom left-hand side, there's a blue button that's been following me when I scroll up and down, no matter where I go. It says Run Report. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Let's run the report. And it's going to generate that report. It might take some time since I didn't remove too many pages. It's going to be pretty long. But I can close out of this and I can keep working. If I want to do a school report next, if I want to do a neighborhood report next, or create a flyer, whatever I need to do, I can continue working on those. My report is going to be at the top of this page. It's still being worked on. Ooh, 11:11. We're finalizing this. Now, I can navigate to another page. If I want to go back to my home page, I'm not going to lose any data. It still shows me up here under the report section that I have one report that I'm working on. But I can still work on other things while it's being generated. And once that report is done, wow, look at that timing. Once that report is done, it's going to pop up on my screen no matter what I'm looking at. And I can either close it and look at it later, or I can download the report. Now, I do want to ask if anyone heard a doorbell. I don't know if you can hear the audio on my computer, but RPR will notify you that your report is finished by ringing a doorbell. If you'd like to turn that off, let me close this real quick. If you'd like to turn off that doorbell notification, click on Reports at the top, and you can turn that report bell off or on. All right, it's just a single click to switch it off. If you want the doorbell, go ahead and turn it on. Make sure your volume is up. All right, so from here, I clicked on reports, right? That's how I got this screen. If I want to go look at my new report, it was a seller's report. I can see here that orange notification here. That's where my report is. So I can click on seller's report, or I can click on my reports just to see all of the reports I've generated. Either way, it's going to take you back to this page. And here is my seller's report. Now from here, I have options. If I use this drop-down menu, I can download the report. Let's go ahead and download it. And here is my property. Here is the first image from the listing. Here is all my contact information, my license number, my logo. All of that is on here looking really nice. And then here's all of the information. We're not going to go through all of these 81 pages. I won't put you through that. We don't have time for that. But this is where you can view all of those pages if you want to get another preview. I'm going to close out of this tab. Let's look at the other options here. You can download. You can delete the report, but just keep in mind we cannot get it back if you delete it. You can post it to Facebook. You can run it again if you want to make changes, or you can view the activity. If you've shared it with anyone, you can see who's been looking at it. All right, that is our CMA report. Now, we generated that CMA from the property itself, but you don't have to be looking at a property every time. You can come straight to the reports page. You can enter your information, select whatever you'd like. Then you can add the address or city or whatever school name that you're running the report for. So you can start it from a property, or you can start it from the reports page. It works either way. Let's go back to the home page. Something else to keep in mind as well, all of the reports, they are stored in RPR for 30 days. So if you need something more than 30 days into the future, make sure you download the copy of the report before you lose it, because after 30 days, it'll be deleted and we can't get it back. All right. So let's take a look at the search options. We're going to wrap it up these last 15 minutes. First, exploring the search criteria, and I'll show you at a high level how you can look up or how you can produce those mailing labels. Then we'll look at the map and we'll call it a day. All right, we are almost done here. So we're on the home page. We know we can search an address on here, but maybe I don't want to search an address. Maybe I want to search for properties with potential sellers that might be interested in listing their property with me. Let's say there's a neighborhood I've had my eye on. It's in the zip code 75063. All right, so just by selecting the location, it already ran a search without me even needing to add any more criteria. But we're not done yet. Let's go to the next category here, because instead of looking for listings, because we know we can look for listings in Matrix, we can look for listings in Cloud MLX, we can look for listings in RPR, but I want to look for potential sellers that don't have a listed property. So I'm going to uncheck for sale and switch to public record. All right, so I'm just going to leave public record selected, and I'm going to go to the next category, property type. What type of property do I want to list? We're going to stick with single family. For pricing, we're not looking for anything that's actively on the market yet, so I'm going to leave the price empty. Beds, baths, any is fine. But let's say I want to make sure that it was a property that was built within a certain range of years, or maybe that they've been occupied for a certain range of years because they might be ready to downsize or something like that. I have more filters that I can search by up here. So click on more filters. It's going to make a full page of criteria appear. Top section, we already looked at this. Price, we already looked at. Size, you have your bedrooms and bathrooms. You can do a minimum and a maximum if you want to have a range. You have your living area, lot size, and even number of units, again, depending on the property type you selected. You also have current distressed status if you want to look for foreclosure listings. You have these here as well. All right, foreclosure listings or just properties in foreclosure that you want to list. We have open houses. If you're just looking for what open houses are coming up this weekend, you can search by open house. You can search by land use. So if you're looking, maybe you're representing a builder and they're looking for a specific land use, you can search by that. You can also search by organization. Remember, RPR is a nationwide system. NAR members can contribute their MLS data to RPR if they choose to participate. If there's a specific MLS that you're interested in looking at listings for, organization is going to have each of these names here. All right. A question I get pretty frequently in class is, should I join another MLS? And I would recommend, of course, you have the option to join multiple MLSs, but if you're just doing a search in that area for potential listings, you can check RPR first, see if they have the information. If you need more detail, then you can decide if RPR is not giving you enough detail, then maybe you want to consider joining that MLS. But if you can find it here on something that's already a benefit that you have access to, try that first. Next, these are the ones we've been looking for, miscellaneous fields. So I am looking for potential sellers that might want to list their single family residence. So on the occupancy type category, I want to look for owner occupied. I want to make sure that the owners, if I'm sending any mailers out, that they're actually occupying the property. On the opposite side, if I were looking for renters that are interested in purchasing, first-time home buyers, things like that, I can use the absentee owner and I can look for the occupants of those rental properties as my target prospects. You have an owner name category. You have a year built category. I said I wanted to look for a specific year built. Let's do 1985 to 2005. That'll be our range of years. And then you have a time owned category. You've got these ranges here. I'm going to go with that 15 to 20. And that'll be my criteria for looking for potential sellers. If I want to add more keywords on the search, here's some frequently used keywords. You can use almost any word you can think of in here. It's kind of similar to the keyword search we do in Matrix, except you don't have to add any asterisks or anything. Let's go ahead and click Update and Search and see what our results look like. Now it's going to default to the map. We're going to look at the map in just a moment, but let me switch my view here. So the map is on the top right-hand side of the page here. Next to it is more of a gallery view. And then after that, I can do a list view. List view. So there's your 3 views on the top right. Now I have 593 properties here. I don't want to reach out to all 593 sellers or potential sellers at the same time. Let's say maybe I just want to target the higher value homes first and see if any of them are interested. And then I can work my way down. This is sorting it by price, but remember these are off-market listings. So the price, I'm saying that in air quotes, the price is going to display the RVM. So that can be what you use to filter out your options. Whoever has the highest RVM, maybe that's who I want to reach out to first. Or if I want to go the opposite way, I can click on the price to sort it from lowest to highest. Just depends on what you are looking to sell. I'm going to go highest to lowest. Now from here, if I want to produce mailing labels, I'm ready to reach out to these owners. On the top right-hand side, here are my action items. I can create a report, I can print this information, or I can produce mailing labels. Click on mailing labels. The mailing labels in RPR, they give you up to 2,000 per month. Okay, so this is not your only resource for mailing labels. This one gives you a little more detailed options for customizing the labels, but Realistax, our own product, our Netris MLS product, Realistax, allows you to do 7,500 mailing labels per month. So you get 2,000 in RPR, and in Realistax, you get 7,500 mailing labels. All right. RPR resets the 2,000 every month on the first of the month. Realistax resets the 7,500 on the 20th of the month. Make sure you know those dates so you're not using all of your exports too soon. If you're following along, feel free to close out of this page when we finish looking at it. I am going to actually export this because I don't need to worry about that total, but I don't want to deduct from your 2,000 for the month. So feel free to not follow along with that step. Very first thing we do, choose your layout. First of all, are we going to export it as a CSV or a PDF? Leave it on PDF for those mailing labels. What type of labels are you using? Let's say I'm using 5161. You'll need to know which ones you have for your printer, because it's going to print it in that format. Next, customization. What's the address type? Are we reaching out to the owner who's occupying the property? Or are we reaching out to the owner who's not occupying the property? So in other words, using their tax billing address. Tax billing means that it is different from the property address. So we're going to stick to the property address because we know that ours are owner-occupied properties. Who are we addressing it to? Well, we could do the owner name on this one. But let's say on the flip side, if we're looking for the resident who's renting the property, we could do owner name or current resident, or we could just do current resident. Or you can even do a custom name. You can do up to 30 characters in here. So let's say, let's sell your home. That can be my custom name. All right. Last thing here, filters. If you did not already add this to your criteria, this is where you can specify that we want owner occupied. This is where we can exclude any properties that are listed. It's already only on the off-market properties, but we can click exclude just in case. Anything on the do not mail list, we definitely don't want to accidentally send them any mail, so leave that checked. And then any properties with an incomplete address, yeah, we don't want to duplicate our efforts, and we definitely don't want to send anything that might not get delivered. Now remember, we had 549 results. So from here, this is where I can specify, I don't want all 549, I just want the first 100. So I can choose a range from 1 to 100, and that's just going to do the first 100 labels, first 100 properties on my results. Then from here, I can print. Again, close this if you don't want to deduct from your total. I'm going to go ahead and print. And look how quickly it generated that PDF. And here we go. So from here, I'm just going to print this onto those labels. Hopefully they've already been loaded to the printer. And I just need to put these on any mailers, any postcards, anything that I plan on sending out so I can get some potential business. And then just one final reminder, RPR gives you 2,000 mailing labels per month. You'll see the status here, how many you've exported so far. Now we know this is not true because we did 100 in that export, but it will give you the updated total the next time you come to export your labels so that you can keep track of your balance. This is not something that will carry over into the next month. It's just going to reset to 2,000 every month on the 1st. And then remember, you have realist tax, which gives you 7,500 mailing labels, and it resets on the 20th of the month. And in our realist tax class, we do a walkthrough on how to produce mailing labels in that one as well, because it's slightly different. All right, one last thing I'll show you, and then we will look at the map. If you want to save this criteria, let's say I reached out to the first 100, but I want to keep the other properties on here so that I can do another outreach to the 200 that follow maybe a month from now. I can save this criteria by hitting the save button next to the search. This is saving the criteria. I can add a custom name. So let's just say sellers search 75063. And I can save that. And it's going to store it up here under my work. All right, let's do one more search. I'm going to click on, let's see, let me just go back to the home page and we'll just start fresh. What I'm going to do here, let's do the same area. We're going to do 75063, but this time we're setting this up so we can search for properties. I'm sorry, listings. So from the type /status, we're going to go to the for sale category and we'll select active, active under contract, pending. We'll do hold to, why not? All right, so we've got our sales information. Single family residence, we'll keep that as our category. Let's narrow down the price, or bedrooms and bathrooms. Let's do a price. We can do a minimum price of 600 and we'll do a maximum of 700. Let's see how many results that gets us. I'm going to go ahead and hit search right up here. Perfect. So not too many properties. Let me actually remove that 600,000. I'm sorry, 700,000. We're going to keep it at 600 as a minimum. I do want to get more than 8 properties on the map. 37 is good. All right, so how do we get back to the map? We're on that list view. Your map view is on the right-hand side, top right, under the magnifying glass. All right, and now we're going to look at the tools on the map. Now, if you're familiar with Matrix, the tools are pretty similar. All right, but let's find out where they're located. Now, let me just make a quick announcement. It is 11:28, so if you have somewhere you need to be right at 11:30, please, you are free to go at 11:30. I'm going to keep on going so that this is included on the recording. So if you do have to go somewhere, this will be included on the recording that'll be emailed to you if you want to see the map tools. And any of you who wish to stay, feel free to stay for as long as it takes for us to get through the map section. So over here on the right, these are your tools. You have your zoom functions on here. If I click that minus sign, I can zoom out, plus sign to zoom in. And you'll see here, I entered a zip code and RPR created a custom shape that outlines the estimated boundaries of that zip code, of that location. All right, so I already have a shape on here and it's only showing results within that shape. But I can remove that shape by clicking remove boundary. And I can add new shapes. When you remove the boundary, it's going to show you the results based off the criteria that you've entered without the zip code limiting your area. So it's going to show all these other areas, anything that matches my current criteria. So that's my zoom functions here and removing a boundary. If I need to recenter my map, I can do that here. If I want to make this full screen, I can make it full screen. I'm not going to click on it though, because I will not be able to see the time. Next one, let's look at our map view. You have your standard road map. You also have a satellite option. You have an aerial option. You have the road, which we just looked at, and then you have the terrain view. So 4 different map options on here. Next, you have your drawing tools. The drawing tools, pretty similar to what you use in Matrix. You have your freehand. So if you just want to draw, you'll click and drag with your mouse. Same idea as the freehand option in Matrix. So you're just going to click, hold your mouse down, and you're just going to drag until you have created your shape. So I'm just going to create a custom shape over here. Once I meet the point at which I started, it's going to create the shape. Once I create that shape, I can either search within that area, or I can save this area to my map. Let's say maybe I'm going to be searching in here a lot, and so I want to save this to my map. I can save this area, and I can say this is 4.23 for today's date, and that is a custom shape I made for Irving, and I can save that. So I don't have to draw this every time. And it's going to be saved on this top right-hand side. Use a saved area. Here's all of my areas that I've saved if I need to ever come back to this. All right, now that pop-up I had, it went away. I can click on the shape to make it come back. I already saved my area, so it removed the option, but I do have a search area here. If I want to search for results only in that shape, I'm going to click search. And now it removed everything outside of that shape. Now, something that you cannot do in RPR is you cannot have multiple shapes at the same time. I know in Matrix you can, but in RPR, it only lets you do one shape at a time because of the functionalities within them. If I click on this again, I can actually use this to create a report. Maybe a seller's report, maybe a property flyers, maybe neighborhood report, anything else that I need to do, I can create reports from here. So that's why it limits you to only one shape at a time. Let me remove this boundary. Let's look at the other ones here. Let me click on that draw again, and we have a radius. Radius, click and drag, just a single click and drag. As you move it out, just like in Matrix, it's going to show you the mileage of the radius you're creating. I'm going to go to 5. Hopefully that's not too, okay, let's go a little smaller here. Close enough. Again, when I release my mouse, it gives me these options here. I can search in this area. Let's go ahead and search. And then I can zoom out to get the whole shape in there. So this is a 5-mile radius I created, and now only the properties within that radius are included on my results. I'm going to go back to the draw option. The polygon. Notice how my shape went away as soon as I clicked on a new drawing tool. So I don't always have to click remove boundary. Now this one, it's nice because it does tell you up here, click to start drawing the shape. So I'm going to go over here by Grapevine Mills. I'm going to do a single click. When I do that single click, notice how I move my mouse and this orange line is following me everywhere I go. So I can create a custom shape using these lines. I'm going to create an endpoint right over here by 121. Click again. Notice how the line became a more solid defined line versus this faint color. I can keep on moving this around and clicking to create a new line every time. And then once I meet the point at which I started, let's go back to where we started by Grapevine Mills. Now it's going to create the shape. And now I can search in this area. All right, and I did say 11:30, if you have to go somewhere, you're free to go, but I'm going to keep on going here because we have a couple other tools that we need to see here. This will all be included in the recording. All right, so there is our other shape. Very last one is your basic box. And this is just a click and drag motion. You're going to create a box over whatever area you want to search in. And then you will click search area to get the updated results. There we go. Those are your drawing tools. Next, we have some driving tools here. So you have your travel time if you want to calculate, or not calculate, but create a shape that will take into account your client's commute. We do have this in Matrix too, but let's add an address. I'm going to do 1701 Kinwest Parkway. And that's in Irving, Texas. And I'm going to click next. From here, this is where we get to determine the drive time. Now, Matrix is always going to assume that we're driving, but RPR gives you a walking option. We're going to keep the car option though. What time of day do they need to arrive? It only gives you the exact hour. Matrix does give you 15-minute increments. So we'll keep it on 8 a.m. The day of the week can also be changed to any day. But the most important part is the length of the journey. You can do 3 minutes as your smallest commute time, or you can go as high as 2 hours. I'm going to do 15 minutes on this one. And then I'm going to click next, and let's see what happens. All right, so here is the custom area that will get my client to their office within 15 minutes. And if I search this area, it's going to give me properties that will guarantee that they will get to their office within that time frame on that day of the week. All right, so that's your driving tool number one, travel time. The next one is the distance. All right, this is also like another radius option. I'm going to use the same address, 1701 Kinwest Parkway, Irving, Texas. If you don't know, this is our Irving headquarters here. That's why it's the easiest address for me to jot down there. So I enter my address, and then I can select what type of radius or what distance I'd like for my radius. I'm going to keep it on the 5 option. Let's see what happens. Pretty decent coverage area. And then I can see my updated results for the radius. So 2 radius options in here. The last one is going to be traffic counts. This is just going to tell you, let's say we have a subject property we're looking at, but is it a high traffic area? We can look at traffic counts. You can select, do we want the high traffic indicators on here? Yes, absolutely. Maybe I don't need to see the lower ones, but I want these top 3 because this is showing me the traffic counts. Once I hit apply, look at all of these triangles that appear here. Now, I know for a fact that the area off 635 right by MetroTex headquarters has very high traffic. We see it from the office every afternoon, and it's always this area right here. So it's no surprise that it's got those triangles here indicating the highest category for those traffic counts. I'm going to remove that boundary. All right, those are your driving tools. Next up, you have your POIs, and this one I always recommend. This is probably my favorite POI category or POI option in all the systems you have access to. They have a ton of different options for points of interest. You can select the entire category, or you can just pick and choose the subsections you'd like to include. I'm just going to minimize these. Excuse me. Sorry, it's so dry in here. I'm just going to minimize these so that you can see all of the categories that you have access to. It is going to show you how many subsections they have as well. There we go, lots of categories here. So you can pick and choose whatever you'd like on this section. Now, something that I really like about this, if you're using points of interest frequently and you usually go for the same categories, maybe we go for restaurants and bars, and we want to know about shopping, I can select those, and I can set these as a default, meaning I don't have to pick and choose every single time or scroll through this huge list of POIs. I can save it as a default here at the bottom. And then from here, if I clear this out, I can come back. Let's say it's a new day. I go to my POIs and I just want to load my defaults real quick. And then it's automatically going to select the restaurant and shopping categories. Now I can close out of this, and here are all of the options in the area I'm looking in. And then if you click on any of these, you can click on, let's go with this one here. Okay, maybe not the refrigerator repair. Let's go with a restaurant. I'll click on one of these yellow ones here on the border. There we go. So you can see public record name, and you can see the name of the business on the border Mexican Grill. Where's the address, the description, and I can also use this as a shape on my map to search by. All right, those are your POIs. If you want to remove them, just open it up again and hit clear. Next thing here is going to be schools. If you just want to have a little icon, it's a little graduation cap. For each of the schools here, you can add them to the map by adding whatever categories you'd like and clicking apply. And you're going to see, let me zoom out a little bit. You're going to see these little graduation hats right where each of the schools are located. So you can select one, and it's going to show you the name of the school rating. Remember, that's coming from niche. You can use it as a search area, or you can create a school report from the map. All right, that's your school information. Again, if you want to remove it, just come back to that and hit clear. Very last one here is our data layers. Not too much on here. You do have data layers in Matrix and in Realist Tax as well. But this is just for you to see some data. For example, if I want to see the median sold price for this area, I can click on median sold price. I can go up here to geographies and separate it by zip code, by city, by county, or by state. I'm going to go to the cities option here, and then I can click apply to look at the data. I can zoom in or out to just get a higher look at what else is going on there. And over here on the left, it's going to show me the median sold price. So each, too many results. I got to zoom in more. Each of these is going to show me what the median sold price is for these areas. All right, so I can kind of target these areas depending on what my needs are. All right, I see about 15 of you are still here, so I really appreciate that you stayed with us this far. That is going to wrap up our RPR class. Honestly, I could talk about RPR for like 6 more hours, but we are limited to that 2-hour window. So I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar here, but I appreciate you all for joining us today.